And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
Bill Maher is done with the woke, calling out all of the woke ideologies as if it's his full-time job. His latest target, none other than Whoopi Goldberg. Let's face it, she's been providing plenty of material thanks to a string of awkward and controversial statements since 2022. But Maher didn't just disagree with her. He dissected her argument with surgical precision, delivering a verbal takedown so sharp it was like watching a comedy roast meet a heavyweight match. So, what exactly did Whoopi say to land herself in Maher's spotlight this time? And how did his rebuttal shake up the woke crowd? Stick around, we're diving into the details, and trust me, this ride is anything but smooth sailing.
We have got to get past this endless, unforgiving, zero-tolerance mindset bent on punishing and disappearing anyone caught saying the wrong thing. The right response to speech you don't like is more speech.
Whoopi Goldberg is back at it again, stirring up controversy and facing some uncomfortable truths. And let's just say, it's not exactly working in her favor. If you caught our last video, you'll remember how Bill Maher took apart Sunny Hostin for twisting his words. Well, it looks like the View crew isn't about to let that go without a fight. This time, Whoopi has taken center stage, seemingly determined to fire back and settle the score. Rumor has it that after Sunny struggled to handle Maher's criticism, she decided to bring in reinforcements, none other than Whoopi herself. And when Whoopi stepped in, she didn't hold back, diving in headfirst like she was gearing up for a reality TV showdown no one asked for.
And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
Typical Whoopi Goldberg, flipping through the usual woke strategies like they're straight out of a playbook. Whenever the conversation starts falling apart, her favorite tactic is to build a distraction and go on the offensive. Bill Maher was making a clear and simple point. Black Americans are looking for better jobs, a stronger economy, and effective law enforcement. Pretty straightforward, right? But Whoopi jumped in with a completely off-topic rant about supporting a former prosecutor with ideas for the working class. Does it connect? Not in the slightest. Does it make sense? Not really. It's like she's tossing ideas at the wall, hoping something will stick. Spoiler, it doesn't. And you better believe Maher wasn't going to let that slide.
Border Patrol, and let's tear down statues of Lincoln, and get rid of the police. Just, no, it's not that I've gotten old, it's that your ideas are stupid.
Bill Maher didn't hold back, tearing apart Whoopi's arguments and calling them out for what they were. Pure nonsense. But let's be real, that's pretty much business as usual on The View. The show has become the political talk show equivalent of a car crash. You know it's a mess, but you just can't look away. It's always been known for stirring up controversy, and let's be honest, some seriously questionable takes. But Whoopi Goldberg and Sunny Hostin have cranked the chaos up to a whole new level with their over-the-top commentary. Remember when Charlemagne Tha God showed up as a guest? You could practically see him wondering if he'd stumbled into an alternate reality.
This week,
all of the criticism is valid because, Democrats stand on this moral high ground all the time, and, they act so self-righteous. The reality is he didn't have to say anything in regards to, whether or not, his son wanted to be pardoned. He could have said, hey, man, I'm not focused on that right now. But
here's the backstory. President Joe Biden, the self-proclaimed defender of the no one is above the law mantra, just pardoned his son, Hunter Biden, after, surprise, surprise, he was found guilty of corruption and related offenses. Family values at their finest. Right? Not surprisingly, this move has sparked a wave of criticism. How exactly do you reconcile the whole no one is above the law stance when your own son gets a get out of jail free card? It's like saying justice is blind, unless your last name is Biden. Hunter's guilt was as obvious as a toddler with cookie crumbs all over their face, yet accountability seemed to conveniently slip off the family agenda. That's exactly the point Charlemagne Tha God was making. If the woke crowd insists since no one is above the law, then maybe they should stick to their own standards. Seems straightforward enough, doesn't it? Well, Whoopi Goldberg apparently didn't think so.
I'm gonna stop you for a second.
Uh-oh.
Only because you don't know that it was a lie. We don't know why he changed his
You really think he just changed his mind over Thanksgiving weekend all
No,
of a sudden?
I'm going to tell you what I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he changed his mind because he got sick of watching everybody else get over.
And here we go again. Another cringeworthy moment courtesy of Whoopi Goldberg. This time, she's out here insisting that President Biden never lied when he claimed no one is above the law. Really, Whoopi? Because there's an overwhelming amount of proof, videos, audio recordings, and maybe even some ancient hieroglyphics, showing he said precisely that.
This nation was founded on the principle that there are no kings in America. Each of us is equal before the law. No one is above the law.
Seeing Whoopi confidently push such an obvious falsehood is like watching someone argue that water isn't wet while standing in the rain. Her mental acrobatics are so wild, they might just qualify her for the Olympics, though odds are she'd stumble over her own contradictions halfway through. Charlemagne's face said it all, pure disbelief, as Whoopi doubled down on her claims. But she didn't stop there. She actually floated the idea that maybe Biden simply changed his mind because he was fed up with people taking advantage of him. Charlemagne was so caught off guard, he didn't even know how to respond.
So I'm just going to follow the straight and narrow always, because that's what's expected of Democrats.
But that's their fault. They're the ones that go out.
don't-
They're the ones that go out there and they stand on this moral high ground.
Listen,
They don't have to do that.
I'm a Democrat.
The issue with the woke crowd is that they're quick to call out bad behavior, just as long as it's not coming from one of their own. When it's someone in their inner circle, the outrage suddenly fades into weak excuses or a sudden bout of selective amnesia. Naturally, Whoopi and her co-hosts managed to skate by unchecked with Charlemagne in the hot seat. But once Bill Maher caught wind of the situation, he essentially stepped in with a watch this attitude and unleashed one of the most brutal takedowns we've seen in a while.
You love to speak truth to power, and we always should, but you have completely lost the ability to speak truth to...
Maher couldn't have made his point any clearer. The woke mob likes to position themselves as the ultimate arbiters of truth and morality, but this time, their double standards were laid bare for all to see. Hunter Biden was guilty, no question about it. But because his father is in the White House, he gets a free pass with no consequences. If this were anyone else, the mob would be demanding blood. But when it's one of their own, suddenly, fairness takes a back seat to blatant favoritism. It's hypocrisy at its finest, and Maher was right to call it exactly what it is, a farce. The real question is, how much longer will Americans stand for this two-faced behavior? This isn't just about Hunter Biden. It's about a system that bends over backward for the powerful while punishing everyone else without hesitation. Maher's takedown wasn't just timely, it was a much-needed wake-up call for anyone still holding on to the illusion that we live in a fair system. If we continue to ignore these step into Hollywood, where the drama spills off the screen and into the real world. The glossy image of the entertainment industry is starting to crack, revealing a whole new layer of chaos. Once the epicenter of creativity and endless entertainment, it now feels stuck in a constant whirlwind of trouble. With studios collapsing, streaming platforms hemorrhaging money, and creators caught in the middle, things have never been more turbulent. But no story stands out quite like the explosive showdown between Robert De Niro and Warner Brothers. And just when you thought it couldn't get any crazier, Bill Maher enters the fray, publicly calling out De Niro and stoking the flames of their already heated feud.
So why is Trump winning? I mean, the New York Times poll this week came out, and maybe this will change it with the State of the Union address, but Trump was beating him rather soundly. It was quite a warning light, 48 to 43, also winning way more among women than he had before, winning outright Latinos. What do you attribute that to?
I don't know. I just don't want to feel the way I did, and many of us don't, after the election in 2016, where we couldn't believe that it happened. The guy is a total monster. And anybody, I don't understand it. I guess they get behind that kind of logic. They want to fuck with people, screw them, because they're unhappy about something. He's such a mean, nasty, hateful person. I never play him as an actor because I can't see any good in him. Nothing.
For those just tuning in, Robert De Niro, the iconic actor behind unforgettable roles in classics like The Godfather Part 2, Raging Bull, and Goodfellas, has recently been dropped from 2 major Warner Brothers projects. These films were set to showcase De Niro in his legendary mob boss role, something he's mastered over decades. Together, the projects were worth a staggering $40 million. But instead of bringing those characters to life, De Niro is now locked in a legal battle, accusing Warner Brothers of firing him unfairly due to his political views. At first, this looked like a typical Hollywood situation. Warner Brothers had cast De Niro for 2 roles tailor-made for his intense, commanding screen presence. With both films expected to draw large audiences, the studio was counting on De Niro's star power to deliver. His $40 million payday was a testament to his status as one of Hollywood's top-paid actors. But as with many Hollywood dramas, things took an unexpected turn. Out of nowhere, Warner Brothers announced they were cutting ties with De Niro, scrapping him from both films. For an actor of his caliber, this was a major shakeup. Naturally, rumors began to fly. Was it a contract dispute? Creative differences? The truth was far messier. De Niro quickly fired back, claiming he was axed for political reasons, accusing Warner Brothers of bowing to pressure from public figures and groups who opposed his outspoken views. De Niro has always been known for speaking his mind, and his bold political and social opinions have sparked both praise and controversy. Now, he's arguing that his willingness to voice his thoughts has cost him big roles. But Warner Brothers has a much different and far more contentious take on the situation. Insiders from the studio argue that De Niro's firing wasn't about his political stance, but how he expressed it. Sources say his controversial comments angered a large portion of the public, forcing Warner Brothers to make the tough decision to part ways with the actor to protect their brand. Robert De Niro is notorious for never holding back, and his bold views on political and social issues have sparked both admiration and controversy throughout his career. Now, he's claiming that speaking his mind has cost him major roles, but Warner Brothers is offering an even juicier explanation. Studio insiders say the decision to part ways with De Niro wasn't about his politics, but rather the way he voiced them. Allegedly, the actor made a series of inflammatory remarks that ruffled a lot of feathers and offended large swaths of the public. This reportedly triggered Warner Brothers executives, including CEO David Zaslav, to step in and take decisive action. Things didn't stop there. De Niro's financial demands only added fuel to the fire. Sources say he requested a whopping $60 million for the 2 films, plus higher residuals, all while the studio was already facing budget concerns. As tensions built, Warner Brothers made the call to sever ties, a move that quickly sparked a public frenzy. Refusing to go down without a fight, De Niro is now gearing up for a legal battle that could rival anything he's faced on screen. He's suing Warner Brothers and CEO David Zaslav, claiming they fired him for political reasons. In his lawsuit, De Niro accuses the studio of buckling under pressure from groups opposing his views and intentionally sabotaging his career by cutting him from the projects. He's demanding $40 million in damages, the same amount he was set to earn. Despite his claims, many legal experts and industry insiders think his case is shaky, suggesting it's more about saving face than securing a legal win. On the other hand, Warner Brothers is standing firm, insisting their decision was based on De Niro's controversial behavior and the professional risks it posed, not his political opinions. If the legal drama wasn't enough, De Niro is launching a full-blown PR campaign. He's lined up appearances on podcasts, radio shows, and talk shows, including The Howard Stern Show, to tell his side of the story. His mission? To cast himself as a victim of corporate censorship in an industry that he argues no longer tolerates differing opinions. Expect fiery speeches, pointed critiques, and emotional pleas as De Niro takes his fight into the public eye. Meanwhile, Warner Brothers is left dealing with the fallout. The 2 films De Niro was supposed to star in are now in serious jeopardy. One is facing massive budget cuts, and the other may be canceled entirely. Replacing an acting legend like De Niro is no easy task, and the studio is scrambling to save their investment. To add fuel to the fire, De Niro's former co-stars have been told by their agents and managers to steer clear of him, a classic Hollywood move when someone's reputation is in jeopardy. This isolation has only deepened De Niro's sense of betrayal and frustration. But De Niro's clash with Warner Brothers isn't just a personal spat. It's a reflection of the bigger issues shaking up Hollywood right now. The entertainment industry is in the midst of a massive upheaval, with streaming services upending traditional business models, public opinion gaining more power than ever, and studios walking a tightrope of potential controversy. Even A-listers like De Niro aren't immune to the fallout from their actions. For Warner Brothers, cutting ties with De Niro may have been a strategic move to protect against professional risks, but this decision also exposes the tricky balancing act studios face when trying to manage creative freedom, public perception, and financial pressures. Even competitors like Disney are feeling the heat, showing just how high the stakes are in the battle for dominance in the entertainment world. As for De Niro, his place in Hollywood is now up in the air. The legal showdown with Warner Brothers could drag on for months, possibly even years, and the damage to his public image may take even longer to repair. But if there's one thing De Niro is known for, it's his resilience. Whether he's playing a mob boss or taking on $1 billion studio, he's never been one to back down from a fight. One thing's for sure, this
Austin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from sunny Austin. It sounds like a town. We're in sunny Austin.
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Sunny Hostin recently found herself in the spotlight, but not for the usual reasons. Known for her strong opinions on racial justice, reparations, and systemic oppression, she's built her career on standing up for what she believes is right. But her appearance on PBS's Finding Your Roots took an unexpected turn, shaking up that image. In a surprising twist, Sunny learned that her ancestors weren't victims of oppression, they were actually slave owners. That's right, a vocal advocate for reparations discovered that her own family had directly benefited from the very system she has long condemned. Her reaction? A mix of shock, hesitation, and an awkward attempt to brush it off as just part of history. Greg Gutfeld didn't let this slide. With his signature sharp humor, he pointed out what he saw as clear hypocrisy. His take struck a nerve, igniting discussions everywhere. Should this revelation change how people view Sunny's activism? And when someone speaks about accountability, does their own personal history matter? Let's take a closer look at this explosive moment. Sunny Hostin, a well-known co-host on The View, has built her reputation on being outspoken about racial justice and identity politics. But now, people are questioning whether her message still holds the same weight in light of this discovery.
It was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe.
Sunny Hostin often presents herself as a strong model voice, passionately speaking on issues like reparations and systemic oppression. She doesn't hold back when criticizing white privilege and is a firm believer in holding people accountable for America's historical injustices. Her advocacy is centered around bringing awareness to equity and confronting uncomfortable truths about race and privilege. Over the years, she has become a prominent figure in the push for reparations and a fierce, unapologetic commentator on systemic racism. But her appearance on PBS's Finding Your Roots took an unexpected turn, one that neither she nor her audience saw coming. Viewers tuned in expecting a familiar narrative, an ancestral history of oppression that aligned with her strong stance on racial justice. Instead, what they got was a shocking revelation. Sunny's ancestors weren't victims of oppression. They were actually slave owners. Her reaction? Pure disbelief. She stumbled over her words, clearly caught off guard, and made an awkward attempt to downplay the revelation as just a fact of history.
How are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information. I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living. on the backs of others.
Sunny was visibly shaken, struggling to process what she had just learned. After a pause, she hesitantly admitted, "I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican. I never imagined my family were slaveholders." The silence that followed was thick with irony. It didn't take long for the internet to explode. Social media was flooded with memes mocking the moment, including one that read, "Reparations? Let me write that check to myself real quick." While some fans defended her, many couldn't ignore the glaring contradiction between her personal history and the views she so passionately promotes. The revelation reignited discussions about accountability and whether personal history should factor into activism. Sunny, who is usually the one calling out others, now found herself on the receiving end of criticism. Greg Gutfeld didn't waste any time delivering a sharp, humorous take on the situation. His most cutting remark? Sunny's ancestors were slave owners. That's like finding out a vegan secretly owns a barbecue joint.
On, new episodes of The View when she tries to pull the race card.
Yes.
And then she's like, America is racist. And then they're like, yeah, they might be racist, but they're not like slave owner racist. like somebody that we...
That's so true.
Yeah.
One thing, and I would have even actually not give her any, is she said, well, I guess that's just what they did back then.
Yeah.
She should have followed that up with saying something along the lines of, and I understand that that's a departure from the way I've talked about this before.
The punchline landed perfectly, and the audience burst into laughter. But Gutfeld didn't just stop at making jokes. He used the moment to call out what he saw as blatant hypocrisy. For years, Sunny has been outspoken about holding others accountable for their ancestry, often framing her arguments around systemic oppression and historical responsibility. Yet, when confronted with her own family's troubling past, she seemed to shrug it off, calling it just a fact of life. Gutfeld didn't let that slide. He pointed out how moments like these reveal the risks of identity politics, when the story someone pushes doesn't quite match the reality. He argued that Sunny's moral high ground had taken a serious hit, and stressed the importance of self-awareness and nuance when discussing complicated topics like race and history.
It is funny. She is so wrapped up in identity and she had no idea who she was.
Well, now we understand why she always makes Whoopi get the coffee.
Exactly, because if she is shaming descendants of this, will she continue to do that when she is now one of them?
Gutfeld explained that reducing complex issues to identity-based narratives can sometimes lead activists like Sunny to overlook important context, including their own contradictions. The real irony, he pointed out, wasn't just that Sunny's ancestors were involved in a system she passionately opposes, but that she avoided taking the moment to reflect on it. Instead, she quickly brushed past it, downplaying its significance. His commentary struck a chord with many who saw this as a prime example of what happens when moral superiority runs up against uncomfortable truths. To Gutfeld, this wasn't just about Sunny. It was a bigger lesson on how personal accountability often takes a back seat to performative outrage. After Sunny's shocking family history came to light, the internet wasted no time reacting. Social media exploded with memes and jokes, including one particularly viral caption, "Reparations? Let me write that check to myself real quick." Platforms like Twitter and TikTok were flooded with a mix of sharp humor and strong opinions, making the moment impossible to ignore.
In her defense, everyone has ancestors that did unspeakably horrible things. It's just that not everyone's ancestors have records tied to their DNA about it. Worried for Sonny Hostin's progeny in the future that do a DNA test and find out that they were related to a cast member of The View. And they're like, oh, it all makes so much sense now why I'm so stupid and fat.
Some people defended Sunny, saying she shouldn't be blamed for what her ancestors did, but many others couldn't ignore the obvious contradiction. Sunny, who has built her platform on holding others accountable for their history, seemed to brush off her own with nothing more than a casual shrug, calling it just a fact of life. This sparked a heated debate. Should public figures like Sunny be held to the same moral standards they demand from others? Critics argued that her response lacked the reflection and growth expected from someone so outspoken about accountability. The irony of the situation made sure the backlash didn't fade quickly. Keep keeping the conversation going for weeks. The fallout from Sonny's revelation didn't just stir up controversy, it also made things awkward on The View. When the bombshell dropped about her ancestors being slave owners, the usual lively energy at the table disappeared into an uncomfortable silence. Even Whoopi Goldberg, known for her quick comebacks, hesitated, seemingly unsure how to handle such an ironic twist. Meanwhile, over on Greg Gutfeld's panel, the reaction was the complete opposite. His co-hosts didn't hold back, throwing in sharp but playful jabs. One even joked that Sonny might have to start shaming herself for her family's past. The panel's laughter drove home their criticism of what they saw as her double standards, further exposing the cracks in her moral high ground. Rosie O'Donnell also weighed in, offering a more thoughtful perspective on the situation.
Yes, there's nothing worse than to find out you're a white woman.
She's so disappointed.
It's really disappointing.
Her mother was white.
Oh my
The
God.
shame.
Oh my God.
The horror. History, and finds out that this is fantastic. She is descended from slaveholders. She's descended from slaveholders, and she's been apparently getting a lot of mail about her call for reparations because it turns out she's going to be paying them and not actually receiving them.
Rosie O'Donnell emphasized that people should be judged by their actions, not their ancestry, while also pointing out how identity politics can sometimes oversimplify complex issues like race and history. Her perspective highlighted how discoveries like these can challenge rigid narratives and force uncomfortable self-reflection. The reactions from both Sonny's supporters and critics revealed a clear divide. Some saw this as an opportunity to discuss personal accountability, while others viewed it as yet another example of identity politics backfiring in a big way. No matter where people stood, the tension surrounding Sonny's response was impossible to ignore. Her reaction to her family's shocking past felt like a missed opportunity. Instead of using the moment to reflect or start a meaningful conversation about the complexities of ancestry and accountability, she brushed it off as just a fact of life. For someone who has built a career on holding others to high moral standards, this casual dismissal left many feeling unsatisfied. This could have been a moment of growth. Sonny had the chance to acknowledge the irony, share her personal struggle with reconciling her family's past, and use the revelation to deepen discussions about historical injustices. It could have served as a powerful reminder that no one's history is simple or without contradictions, but instead, the focus shifted to her perceived hypocrisy and unwillingness to confront her own past, turning what could have been a meaningful dialogue into yet another debate over accountability. Sonny's story is a clear example that no one's history is without complexity, and that moral certainty can quickly unravel when inconvenient truths come to light. Her situation raises an important question. If you demand accountability from others, shouldn't you be willing to hold yourself to the same standard? With the internet's reaction, viral memes, and Greg Gutfeld's sharp commentary, this moment isn't fading anytime soon. Whether Sonny chooses to address it, let's unravel what could easily be Hollywood's most explosive fiasco of 2024. George Clooney, Hollywood's golden boy known for his charisma, sophistication, and status as cinematic royalty, is now caught in the middle of a career meltdown so over the top, it feels ripped straight from one of his own disaster movies. At the core of this mess is a feud so fiery, so public, and so wildly entertaining, it's grabbed the attention of both the industry elite and everyday viewers alike. And the unexpected co-star in this unscripted drama, Bill Maher, the unfiltered host of Real Time, wielding his signature wit like a weapon. But before we unpack this whirlwind of betrayal and scandal, a quick shout out for tuning in, because trust me, this is one wild ride you won't want to miss. Clooney's troubles began with what was supposed to be a straightforward political ad, a nod to his activism, and a move to keep him relevant in today's shifting cultural tides. Instead, the ad was a disaster. It wasn't just criticized, it was utterly shredded. Don't believe me? Let me show you the infamous clip. Buckle up, it's about to get interesting.
Come on, boys, let's make America great again. It's your turn, buddy.
Before you cast your vote in this election, think about how it'll impact the people you care about the most.
Daddy!
Remember, you can vote any way you want, and no one will ever know.
Do your patriotic duty?
You bet I did, brother. What happens in the booth stays in the booth. Vote Harris Walls.
Paid for by Vote Common Good.
Critics wasted no time tearing into Clooney, branding him as tone-deaf, insincere, and, above all, guilty of blatant pandering. A slip-up is one thing, but this misstep felt like a complete free fall down the stairs of public opinion. While Clooney has survived controversies before, the Hollywood landscape has shifted. It's less forgiving now, and backlash spreads like wildfire. For a star with a carefully crafted image to maintain, this wasn't just bad press, it was a full-blown crisis. Determined to take back control of the narrative, Clooney launched a full-scale media offensive to repair his image and win back public support. But this wasn't just your run-of-the-mill PR push, it was a high-stakes, all-or-nothing campaign. At the center of it was a bold strategy, an appearance on Real Time with Bill Maher. The plan was simple. Clooney would walk onto Maher's stage, charm the audience, offer a heartfelt apology, and sprinkle in some exclusive political insights to remind everyone why he was once so admired. However, Bill Maher wasn't exactly rolling out the red carpet. When Clooney's team pitched the idea to Maher's producers, emphasizing how his appearance would draw massive viewership and create a media frenzy, Maher reportedly shot it down without hesitation. "This isn't a platform for celebrity image rehab," he allegedly said, making it clear he wasn't interested in being part of a shallow publicity stunt. Refusing to give up, Clooney's team came back with a revamped pitch, doubling down on the exclusivity and drama of the appearance. This time, they promised headline-grabbing revelations, direct clapbacks to his critics, and a spectacle guaranteed to dominate the media cycle for weeks. Their aim? To turn this interview into the must-see event that would catapult Clooney back into the spotlight and restore his image. The stakes couldn't have been higher, but Maher, as always, wasn't one to play by Hollywood's rules. Maher remained steadfast in his refusal, reportedly telling HBO executives that bringing Clooney on the show would alienate his core audience. His viewers tuned in for sharp, no-nonsense political analysis, not a celebrity's attempt at damage control. Maher was convinced that his audience valued substance over spectacle, particularly in a media landscape already saturated with fluff. At the heart of Maher's stance was a growing disillusionment with the role of celebrities in politics and public discourse. While figures like Clooney once wielded significant influence, Maher seemed to believe that the cultural tide had shifted. Star power alone wasn't enough to carry a meaningful narrative anymore. In his view, public trust demanded authenticity and depth, qualities he didn't see in Clooney's push for a televised comeback. Turning Real Time into a stage for a celebrity redemption story didn't align with Maher's vision for the show, and he wasn't about to compromise its integrity for a PR stunt. Despite the repeated rejections, Clooney's team didn't give up. In a last-ditch effort, they pitched an idea for a live Q&A session where Clooney would field unscripted questions from the audience to showcase his sincerity and directly address his critics. Once again, Maher declined, remaining unconvinced. Here's where the story takes a personal twist. After the third rejection, Clooney himself decided to intervene, reaching out to Maher directly. He proposed an unscripted, candid conversation, hoping to appeal to Maher's belief in open dialogue. But Maher wasn't budging. According to sources, he bluntly told Clooney that his show wasn't a platform for celebrity redemption arcs. For Maher, it wasn't just about protecting his ratings, it was about maintaining the show's credibility. This final rejection wasn't just a professional setback for Clooney, it was a deeply personal blow. A Hollywood icon who had spent decades accustomed to doors opening effortlessly with his charm now faced a rare and public refusal. For someone like Clooney, who had long been a darling of both Hollywood and the public, this moment of rejection was an uncharted and humbling experience, one that served as a stark reminder that even stars aren't immune to the shifting tides of public opinion. Behind the scenes, the feud between George Clooney and Bill Maher was intensifying. Maher, never one to mince words, reportedly mocked Clooney's persistent attempts to appear on Real Time during private conversations. According to insiders, Maher allegedly described Clooney's behavior as desperate, likening his repeated pitches to auditioning for a pity party. Though these remarks weren't made publicly, word quickly got back to Clooney, leaving him seething with anger. Maher didn't stop there. During one of his monologues, he took thinly veiled shots at Hollywood elites, ridiculing actors who clung to their fame by pushing political agendas rather than relying on their actual body of work. While he didn't name Clooney outright, the implications were clear to anyone paying attention to the drama. Clooney, however, wasn't about to let Maher have the last word. Frustrated and eager to shift the narrative, his team began pitching him to other platforms, including The Howard Stern Show. But even Stern, known for his unfiltered and edgy interviews, appeared hesitant. Reports suggested that Stern's team was cautious about associating with Clooney, given the actor's spiraling public image and the growing backlash surrounding him. As rejection after rejection piled up, Clooney's frustration reportedly boiled over. Behind the scenes, insiders described him as being in meltdown mode, venting his anger not just at Maher, but at the broader Hollywood ecosystem. Once known for his charm and composed demeanor, Clooney's erratic behavior was both surprising and unsettling to those around him. Meanwhile, Maher remained unshaken. Although he never directly mentioned Clooney by name, his pointed comments about celebrity culture and political posturing left little doubt about the target of his criticism. For Maher, this wasn't just a professional standoff, it was a principled stand. By refusing to entertain Clooney's PR campaign, Maher reinforced his commitment to authenticity and refused to let his show become a platform for shallow celebrity theatrics. What started as a simple disagreement has now morphed into one of Hollywood's most talked about scandals of the year. The clash between Clooney and Maher isn't just about an actor trying to salvage his reputation or a talk show host maintaining his integrity. It reflects a broader cultural shift where the public and even the entertainment industry seems increasingly unwilling to give celebrities a free pass. In a world shaped by social media and instant backlash, even the most iconic figures are discovering that reputation, once lost, isn't easily reclaimed.